Chapter 6-2 Post-mortem Predicament. The elevator slowly made its way upwards towards the second floor of Honeydale Hospital. I felt impatient to find that music box and see what secrets it held. A. Williams. Was it really my name? And in that case, what had I been doing in Cordale? I know that I came here once during my teenage years, when my old friends and I were out on our first road trip. That was before I joined the military. Even so, I don't have any memory of coming to this hospital. The elevator doors opened up with a slight grating, and the second floor now lay before me. I exited into yet another area steeped in utter darkness. Only the dim lights from emergency lamps shone here and there around the second floor west wing. I saw a shower room to my left in the beam of the flashlight, and the sign above read, "Staff only." I took a few cautious steps into the darkness and found some broken metal tables and chairs littering the floor. I saw a room with the number 1 written on a plate to my right as I continued. The door lay broken on the floor, and it was evident that the room's former resident had been trying to keep something out. Judging by the wrecked door, the blood marks on the floor, and the smashed window further in, I'd say they weren't successful. I carefully went inside the room and looked outside. A beautiful vista of the eastern portion of Cordale unfolded, and it was just as derelict and abandoned as I was used to by now. Fastened to the window ledge was a ladder reaching all the way down to solid ground. This would make for an exceptional escape route, I thought, if the secrets I had been promised wouldn't be fulfilled. I trusted nothing in this strange place, and had to take every precaution in order to escape with my life. I made my way further into the west wing on the second floor, and cocked my ears to hear if I could determine a melody from the would-be music box. The silence was deafening, and I was unable to discern any sounds except for the soft buzzing of a fan from somewhere close to my location. After a few minutes of silent examination, I presumed that the music box wasn't in the west wing of the hospital. I instead made my way towards the hospital's middle area. This floor was constructed much like the first, and a sign above the revolving doors leading into the second floor hallway stated that this path led to emergency rooms floor 2 and offices floor 2. I figured that even further beyond, there would probably be another hallway connecting the middle area with the east portion of Honeydale Hospital. I opened the swing doors and entered the emergency hallway on floor 2, hoping to expose the hospital's secrets. The darkness here wasn't as thick as the rest of the hospital, since the walkways and the corridors on both floors 2 and 3 were adorned with glass windows placed in between. They made up the roof of the walkway on floor 2 and the floor of the walkway on the hospital's third level. It was a unique construction, one that let patients feel at least a bit liberated during their stay within these walls. I, however, didn't feel free at all. The atmosphere around me dampened the world, and I felt a heavy weight on my shoulders as I made my way down the second floor hallway. I tried to push away the feeling of hopelessness as I continued through the hallway into the antechamber in the middle of the hospital's second floor. Once inside, a scraping sound from the office section to my left caught my attention. Before I even had the time to react, the windows to the office shattered, followed by shrieking noises from some sort of flying creatures. They resembled some form of twisted women with wings, and their obvious ferocity made them seem truly savage. I raised the metal pipe and prepared to defend myself. The beasts glowered at me with sinister-looking eyes, and then dashed forth. Their twisted faces revealed their true nature, and equipped with sharp claws and fangs, they shouldn't be taken lightly. I started running towards the hallway connecting the second floor middle section with the second floor east wing. I swung the metal pipe with every ounce of my strength, and managed to inflict some damage to one of them. The fiend fell to the ground, but was almost instantly backed up by another one, which flew at me with claws held high. I used the metal pipe to riposte its onslaught, and thankfully avoided its sharp claws. Just as I was about to burst through the revolving doors into the next emergency hallway, another one of the creatures positioned itself in my way, ready to tear me asunder. I just barely evaded its lashing claws and made my escape through the hallway leading towards the second floor east wing. The swinging doors partially hit one of the creatures, but it still came at me with relentless speed. I somehow got the chance to counterattack during my flight and managed to throw the metal pipe at the creature, hitting it cleanly with a sharp edge. The fiend fell to the floor, and I had effectively rendered it motionless. The rest of the flying scourge stayed behind the doors and for some reason stopped in their pursuit. I plunged headlong between the revolving doors leading into the second floor east wing. The dank darkness enveloped the world around me once more, and I used my flashlight to see if the area ahead was safe. My heart pounded fast, and I cringed to the floor in order to catch my breath. With slow, deep inhales, just as I had learned in the military, I tried to calm my shaking hands and legs. I rose up after getting my act together and then ensured myself that I wasn't being followed. The fiends had thankfully stayed behind, and I drew a temporary sigh of relief. My composure was short-lived though, as a new sound suddenly caught my attention. It was the soft melody of a music box playing somewhere not far from my position. With the melody as my guide, I made my way down past the bend to my right, and continued down a lane towards the source of the haunting organ-like tune. A closed pool area showed up to my right, and what looked like a gym emerged to my left. I continued and soon stumbled upon a room beside which a metal sign read, "Patient Recreation Room." The melody guided me straight towards the room, and I found myself mesmerized by the strange tune. I instinctively opened the door and effectively ignored any potential risks. An inviting TV corner, complete with couches, was the first thing that caught my eye, since the TV was on. The picture flickered with static, so I instead continued to investigate the rest of the area. Tables, ordinary chairs, as well as wheelchairs littered the floor and made it hard to navigate through the room. Bookshelves lined with children's books and adult hardbacks alike covered one portion of the room. But nothing vied for my attention as much as the small lit-up music box, which stood on top of a wooden pedestal at the other end of the room. When I came up to the strange box, I noticed that the prima ballerina's face was turned upside down, and that a small pool of murky water covered the bottom of the container. There wasn't anything obvious suggesting that the music box held any secrets, so I carefully removed the ballerina doll platform and put my hand into the murky water. I tried vainly to embrace something that felt like a cannula or some kind of medical item. I hastily pulled it up just as my index finger reached around the object. As the item came out from the murky liquid, it displayed a bright light which flashed violently and sent my mind into a state of trance. I found myself sitting in a wheelchair when I came to, strapped down by a straitjacket. I instantly tried to squirm and break free from the horrible impediment, but my attempts were feeble at best. The dark world around me had changed into a daylight version, and the recreation room was full of patients, keepers, and visitors. A gentle murmur permeated the room, and the surroundings were full of people interacting with each other. Soft sunlight shone in through the many windows, and the area was bathed in an amber glow. It was a heartfelt scene, I thought, as I watched objectively. I suddenly laid eyes on a man sitting by a table with his back towards me. He had the same clothes that I always wore when I was in the military. Judging by his size and posture, he was about my age. A young man sat on the other side of the table and constantly rubbed his left arm nervously. Even from this distance, I thought that the young man looked a little like my own son. Only seconds after that revelation, the murmur died down, and I only heard the words from the man with his back towards me and the young man before him. The young man spoke truthfully, perhaps because of the medication he was on. "You know, Dad, I don't want to be here anymore. I was so lonely and you were never home. You missed our birthdays, you missed our swimming school sessions, you missed everything. Why, Dad, why?" "There are times when a man can choose his priorities, son. I can't sacrifice my entire career just to spend time with you, now can I?" the military man asked coldly. "And besides, you know that you're not feeling too well right now. This might just be your medicine speaking. But Dad, I love you, the young man proclaimed, then stood up and tried to hug his father. Sit down, son. You're a man now, not a roundabout little boy. Your actions are bedraggling our family, the father retorted harshly, and pushed the young man into his seat once more. The head keeper had overheard parts of the heated conversation, and came up to the couple and asked, Excuse me, is everything all right here? Without as much as a word, the young man grabbed an ampoule from the head keeper's belt and bit off the plastic covering, whereupon he angrily pushed the needle into his arm and injected the substance into his own system. The keeper panicked and yelled to her colleagues to push the emergency button as the young man went into a state of shock. A loud alarm went off, and I closed my eyes from my static, observational position in the wheelchair, trying to push the horrible scene away from my mind. When I finally came to and reopened my eyes, the world had gone dark once again. I was painfully reminded of the alarm, however, since it was still turned on. I got up from the wheelchair, now free from the shackles that had bound me, and looked around with the help of my flashlight. The room was full of strange transparent creatures aimlessly milling about. I observed them for a moment, but my inspection quickly came to an end. From out of nowhere, the windows were smashed in, and from the endless darkness beyond came creatures of malice. These new monsters were completely covered with needle-like stingers, and immediately set out on their path to eradicate the seemingly innocent transparent creatures wandering around the dark room. The monsters hugged the see-through beings, squeezing the life out of them. The translucent creatures fell one by one, and I tried my best to look for a way past the horrifying scene that played out before me. I wriggled my way past a few of the strange creatures, and was just about to leave when I noticed a needle-covered monster standing in my way. It swung its arms towards me and sought to end my life, but I took up my gun and fired 2 bullets at it. The monster took a blow to the arm and writhed in pain for a second. During that time, I took up a dusty table and smashed it sideways at the fiend. The monster was taken off balance and fell towards the floor. My mind raced as I stormed through the doorway into the east wing on floor 2. Without as much as a single halt, I ran into the emergency hallway and made my way past the flying monsters in the middle section, and finally ended up in the hospital's 2nd floor west wing. Remembering the smashed-down door and the broken window with the ladder in room number 1, I quickly ran towards it, aiming to leave this place and never come back. I put the gun and my flashlight into my belt and started climbing down the ladder with free hands. During my panicky flight, I slipped on the 3rd step above ground and fell towards a soft patch of grass. A spiral tunnel slide running from the roof down, as well as a hatch in the ground, was located to my left. I ignored the objects and instead decided to escape the premises in search of a way to leave the town before more disaster would befall me. I checked the compass on my wristwatch and made my way northward towards the mountainous Nordstar County. My final destination was the hostel in the Backlands Forest region around Cordale.